In today's Locked On Pelicans, we'll look at how Yves Missi can win Rookie of the Year. Plus, we have a very positive injury update that you don't want to miss. It's the Friday episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans in NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, here with y'all on this Friday, and we are going to look at Yves Missi and his chances for Rookie of the Year. There's a better case than you might think for him to win it. But could it be stolen by someone like Zach Edey or another potential player out there? We're going to break it all down in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans, plus Jose Alvarado returning, and why if you are, let's call it well, we'll get into that. We're going to tell you why that's really important. The stretch for New Orleans coming up is super important too. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, visit FanDuel.com to get started. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the number one Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. So let's get into it. One of the bright spots, maybe the brightest spot for the Pelicans this season, has been rookie Yves Missi. 17th overall pick, has started 27 of his 33 games, playing 27 minutes per, and he just won a pretty big award. Yves Missi just won Rookie of the Month in the Western Conference here. He is the sixth New Orleans Pelicans player to capture Rookie of the Month honors, and the first since Zion Williamson won it in February of 2020. In 13 appearances, all starts in December, Missi led all rookies in points with a total of 146, total rebounds 130, offensive rebounds of 63, field goals made with 60, blocks with 21. Those are all the stats that he led in. Missi also averaged a double-double, 11.2 points and 10 rebounds in his 6 games his 6 games with at least 10 rebounds were the most among first-year players. Missi led all NBA players in offensive rebounds in December, while ranking 11th in total boards and 7th in blocks. Missi's done a real good job. By the way, Missi's 277 rebounds through his first 33 games are the most by a rookie in franchise history, surpassing Anthony Davis's record of 251. Missi's 125 offensive boards through his first 33 career games are the most in the NBA since Blake Griffin's 127 in 2010. So that's 15 years ago now. Missi joins J.R. Smith 3 times, Chris Paul 6 times, Darren Collison, Buddy Hield, and Zion Williamson is the only players in franchise history to capture the Rookie Monthly honor. Washington's Alex Starr was named the Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month. Look, those are pretty impressive numbers, and I think Missi has garnered a lot of respect around the league, and right now, you had on NBA.com, they named him the leader in the Kia Rookie Ladder, as he they say, literally the title is surged to number 1. He fits perfectly with what this team is looking for at the center position, a hyper-athletic, vertical spacing big man with just like that athleticism, that size, the strength. That's not stuff that you can really teach. These are innate abilities. I had this pick wrong. The Pelicans clearly had this pick right. He's been really, really good, and you can see how quickly he has grown. And when you look at his stats around the league, they match up really well. In terms of just the whole season right now, he leads the class of 2024 in rebounds, offensive rebounds per game, and double-doubles, 7 of those, and ranks 3rd in blocks at 1.4. But more than that, you look at his numbers compared to just all NBA players, and they're really good. He's top 20 in total rebounds in the NBA, top 20. He's 2nd in total offensive rebounds. He's tied for 10th 10th in total blocks and 15th in blocks per game. And he also had a pretty signature game that I think is something that voters are going to remember. 21 points, 9 rebounds, 2 steals, and 3 blocks against Nikola Jokic, the undisputed, in my opinion, best player in the league right now. Might not win MVP this season, but that's the best player in the NBA, Nikola Jokic. 21, 9, 2, and 3 against him is pretty good. So all of this is to say, Yves Missi is in a really good spot to win Rookie of the Year. And when you look at the future production that you're expecting from him, his life's only going to get a little bit easier. You're going to get an impactful guard off the bench in Jose Alvarado back for this game tonight against the Wizards, what could be a win for New Orleans. Hopefully, if you don't, oh boy. So he's getting that type of player back. Look, he's a big man. They need guards. They need people to get him the ball. You have Zion Williamson, more on that in the third segment too, coming back relatively soon. Zion's going to make his life easy, you would imagine. And he's going to keep starting. There's no reason to think that he's going to be out of the starting lineup. So when you look at minutes per game at 27 and you compare that to other players here, I do think that that's the type of thing that's going to have him look pretty good overall compared to some of the people that we'll get to in the next segment here and look at the competition. We're laying out just the pure stats, the data, all of that stuff for Yves Missi in this one. Then we'll get more into Rookie of the Year in the next segment here because we have his updated odds per FanDuel. And I want to compare him to past winners and then look at it compared to some other guys in this rookie class as well. So Missi's just going to keep doing it. He's only going to keep getting better. That's one thing that we feel really confident about in him. He'll have some games where, he struggles a little bit here and there, as all rookies do. But this is the type of player that you can see how quickly he is growing. This is the type of player where he absorbs some information and turns it around really quickly. We've seen that with the fouls per game. Just 2.3, I think, is phenomenal for a rookie who, has only been playing organized basketball for not that long. One, that helps you win this award by keeping you on the floor. If you're fouling out, if you're in foul trouble, you're not playing basketball because you're sitting on the bench, you're not going to be able to rack up stats that win you Rookie of the Year. And given that this draft class, at least so far, is a little bit underwhelming, you could kind of argue like the players who aren't as impactful as you'd like, that maybe opens the door for Yves Missi. And right now he's kind of surging in a lot of different areas when it comes to this. I'm going to read you during the break here what his odds are per FanDuel, and they're really good right now. So let's get into, will he win Rookie of the Year? I think he's got a good case. I think if the award was given out today, he would win it, but I'm not so sure he's going to win at the end of the regular season. And I'll explain why. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up that W. If you want to get in on which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, you can do all of that. They also have the NBA futures. Right now, Yves Missi is the second favorite for Rookie of the Year, plus 400. If you think he's going to keep going, those are actually really good odds for a really good payout here. Zach Edey is the favorite at plus 120. More on him in the next segment. But Missi's odds have been steadily improving, and there's no reason to think that he's going to drop necessarily in that. So FanDuel doesn't have the favorite. We just laid out he would win it today, and we'll get into that. That's coming up here next. But if you want to go get in on the action, you just need to go to FanDuel.com, join today, and you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And for your second listen, it's reading the Locked On Pelicans daily newsletter. You can sign up for free over at lockedondaily.com. Just scroll down till you see the Locked On Pelicans logo. Click on that, subscribe, put your email in. It's going to be in your inbox every single day. It's a good way to support the channel too. If you just want to support Locked On Pelicans, it's been a hard season for all of us. But if you just want to support the channel, look, we don't charge you. It's completely free, all of that. You don't have to pay for comments or anything like that. Just subscribe. That'd be great. So let's get into the competition for Rookie of the Year for Yves Missi. Look, I don't think he's going to win. The too long didn't listen part of this section is I don't think he's going to end up winning. And when you go back and look at players who have won it over the past couple of years, there's trends that start to develop here. Victor Wembanyama won it last year with just an absurd stat line as a rookie. Banchero the year before that, both those guys averaged over 20 points per game, at least 20 points per game. Scotty Barnes 3 years ago had lower 15 points per game, but almost 8 rebounds and 4 assists. Before that, it's LaMelo Ball, also in the 15 to 16 point range. 16, let's call it 16, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Those numbers are pretty good. Ja Morant before that, Luka Doncic before that. You can go on back. If you want to go to another big man, there's Karl Anthony Towns at 18.3 points per game, 10 rebounds per, along with 2 assists and good 3-point shooting as well. Basically, what this is saying, to win Rookie of the Year, you need to score at least 15 points per game. And I think that's where Yves Missi might struggle with this and where someone like Zach Edey might surpass him. Right now, Yves Missi is averaging 9.3 points, 8.4 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 0.6 steals, and 1.4 blocks. Look, those are good numbers for a fifth guy on a team, and that's kind of what he is. I don't necessarily see his points per game going above that 15 range. I think the rebounds maybe go up a little bit. You could maybe get those to 10, but he's probably somewhere in like 10 and 8 per game. And while that's really good and he's playing significant minutes, I don't know if voters are going to look at that and be like, yeah, that's going to be our Rookie of the Year if someone gets above, say, 15 points per game. Now, maybe nobody will. You look at some of this right now, no one's really like encouraging you when it comes to that, right? Alex Sarr, who's second on the Kia rookie ladders at 11.6 points per game, 6.1 rebounds and 1.8 blocks. Certainly Missi should beat him. Stephon Castle for the San Antonio Spurs is 11 points per game, 2.5 rebounds, 3.6 assists. His production's only dropping now that they're getting healthy and he's coming off the bench with Jeremy Sohan back. Jalen Wells for the Memphis Grizzlies is at 11.3 points per game. He was very NBA ready and he shoots pretty well, but he's not going to get above 15 points per game. So that really does help somebody like Yves Missi. But I think the biggest competition for him is going to be someone like Zach Edey with the Memphis Grizzlies. He has come on slow to start this season just due to some injuries. He's only played in 20 games, and he's only playing about 22 minutes per. So about 5 minutes less than what Missi is playing right now. But he's averaging 11.3 points per game, along with 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 0.8 steals, 1.2 blocks. So his numbers are worse than Missi's are. They just objectively are worse than Missi's are. But I think those numbers are going to go up as he plays more. Here's the thing, per 36 minutes. So if we're just evening out the numbers here, 36 minutes, the reason we use that stat for those who are new to the show or just never understood that one is that's the kind of about what a starter plays. So per 36 minutes kind of puts you at like starter for starter minutes here. Missi is at 12.4 points per game and 11.2 rebounds. Those are, again, really, really good numbers. Edey at per 36 is 18.5 points and 13 rebounds. If he averaged that for the season, he would run away with Rookie of the Year, even if Missi was also playing 36 minutes. You would imagine Edey's role is only going to go up, and that team is also winning, and that's where I think this comes into it too. Are voters going to look at Yves Missi's stats and be like, yeah, it's cool, he's putting up numbers on a bad team. Somebody's got to do that, right? We look at those as kind of like empty calories, even though that's not what is happening to Missi right now. You look at that and go, oh, okay. Or at least voters are going to look at that and be like, yeah, Zion didn't play, Ingram didn't play, he played a ton of minutes. He better have some stats that put him up there, right? That's why when we were reading off the numbers that he has, they're total numbers and not the per game numbers, because those don't look nearly as good in comparison. Yeah, when you're healthy and you play a bunch, your total amount, your cumulative stats are going to be better. And that's, I think, what Missi has going for him right now, which is great. We are not complaining about Missi at all here. But I don't know if that puts you in the running for Rookie of the Year. I do think by the end of the regular season, Edey's numbers are going to be higher, and he's going to be on a significantly better team, winning. Missi, you could argue, and I don't think this would be fair to him at all, but voters are going to argue, let's say, Missi's stats and Missi's impact he hasn't been impactful, right? Like that's what they're going to try and look at and what they're going to try and say. And I don't necessarily think that's true because it's not like it's Missi's fault about why they're losing. And we can look at the on-off stats here, and I haven't looked at them for Missi in a minute. He's actually positive, which is really good. He's positive 0.8. That's actually like pretty good overall for him right here. They need somebody like that, in significant minutes. Is that the case for Edey? We can look that up, and I'm kind of curious. But regardless, Edey's team is winning, and that is maybe going to be the difference. If he's starting on a winning team, here you go. Edey's stats are more impactful. Now, that's partially because of his team that he's on. He's playing with better lineups than some of the crap lineups or G League players that Missi is playing with at times. But Edey is plus 6.2. That is significantly better. Now, the Memphis Grizzlies are just kind of better in general, so they have fewer negative players than someone like Yves Missi does. By comparison, Jalen Wells, one of the guys you've heard in the running for Rookie of the Year, who's been really good for them, he's negative 2.9, which tells you something. Their numbers for Memphis are slowly getting better, but they were not in a good spot for a little while now, and now they are, which that encourages me about them overall. But that is what I think is going to hurt Yves Missi. I think you're going to see Zach Edey with better numbers overall, and in terms of per game. The thing that could swing it is if Edey suffers another sort of injury and just can't stay healthy. I think you can also see just from watching them that Edey's defensive impact is much stronger. Now, I don't know if Edey's actually going to help them in the playoffs. He looks like the type of guy that can be played off of the court. That certainly wouldn't be a good thing for them. But this is voting done in the regular season, not the postseason. And so I do think it's going to end up hurting Missi's chances of winning Rookie of the Year just because he's competing against somebody like this. There's a reason Edey has the best odds per FanDuel that we just went over, plus 120, while Missi at second is a good distance behind at plus 400. But regardless, Missi should make one of the all-rookie teams, if not the first team. And I think when you look at him for the future of this franchise, assuming they're still building around Zion Williamson, he's going to be a really good complementary player, and he looks locked in to be a starter long term. And so while the awards are nice and we would like to see Yves Missi win Rookie of the Year, and what a story that would be, right? And he's been a tremendous bright spot this season. I think he's going to ultimately lose it to Zach Edey. TBD, that could change, but that's kind of the way that I see it going ultimately. Does it matter in the long run? No, it doesn't. Missi's going to be very good in the NBA for a very long time, and that I think is the most important thing. So there you go. Do you think he'll win it? Do you think Edey will win it? How do you think this shakes out? Let me know in the comments down below. So coming up next, you want to see Jose Alvarado play? Because you're going to see him play tonight. We're going to make it even cheaper for you. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by my go-to ticketing app, Game Time. I love going to live events, not just sports, but music, theater, comedy, and more. And one of my favorite things is just going to games in the Smoothie King Center, the camaraderie you get, talking to strangers, just having fun. The people that end up sitting in front of me or behind me, always striking up conversations with everybody. I don't know, it just makes me happy. And now Game Time makes it even easier for you to get to your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. And this feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Look, it's dirt cheap to go to a Pelicans game right now, and we're actually about to hit a point in the season where it's really important for the team, and we'll look at that in the next segment next week as well. Start paying attention to this team again, and you can do that even cheaper by getting your tickets on Game Time to go to the Smoothie King Center. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the number one Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And if you're an everydayer, if you've been hanging on, listening every single day throughout all of this, all 5 total wins here, let me know in the comments down below because you deserve a medal or something. So for your second listen today, by the way, did you hear Jimmy Butler's comments? Did you hear Anthony Edwards' comments after their respective losses? Because, oh boy, we're covering it over at Locked On NBA Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I'm on there every single Friday. Now, moved from Wednesday to Friday here, recapping the entire night of action in the NBA. Go make Locked On NBA Game Night your second listen today. For more on me, just covering overall NBA stuff. The Jimmy Butler comments, my goodness, you've got to go listen to this show. So let's start to wrap up the show by looking at some positive news. We need that here. And that is that Jose Alvarado is about to make his return from the hamstring injury that has kept him sidelined for a while now. He's going to be back on the court playing in this game against the Washington Wizards. He will no doubt be on a minutes restriction. But how good is it to get some positive injury updates here for this team and seeing Jose Alvarado, one of my personal favorite players here, out there on the court. He hasn't played a game. I don't even know when the last time that he played was. It's basically right around Zion's injury too. Hold on, let me pull this up. He has not played since November 11th. Oh, it's almost like 2 months, but he's back. Again, going to be on a minutes restriction. He's had a bit of an up and down season, but he does have a 27-point game so far this year. 2 games over 20 here. I'm excited to see him back out there on the court. And as this team gets healthy, particularly when Zion comes back, we're going to start to get some answers. We're going to start to get some answers about what this team needs to do going forward. Can you build around Zion or not? You know, we talked about it in yesterday's show. A couple of y'all commented on it saying it was a good point, which I appreciate. Is there going to be enough shooting in the expected starting lineup of DeJounte Murray, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson, and Yves Missi? I do not know. And that's going to be a concern. Or are they just going to not give you data on that lineup and bring Trey off the bench, which I get wanting the shooting with CJ. I just want Trey out there. They got to figure out who the long-term pieces are. And we know that it's not going to be CJ McCollum just because of the contract and all of that. So getting a guy like Jose, who on that good deal conceivably could be in the part of the future, is important. He's been a very impactful player throughout his career for the New Orleans Pelicans. And I just want to see him be out there on the court, making us all happy again a little bit, having some joy out there when we watch games. Unlike Jimmy Butler, who has no joy right now, according to him, when it comes to all of that. So I'm really excited to see Jose out there. And this is what I mean by it's actually important to pay attention again. You know, if you're one of the people that's a lapsed Pelicans fan right now, let's call it that, just because of how the season's gone, and look, I don't blame you, I get it. Right now, it's again an important time to start watching them. We'll do a whole show on this next week, but this becomes an important time. This gives them a jump on next season. If you're looking for silver linings, positives in all of this, not moral victories, but just positives, you know, you can test some things out in a way that you couldn't test before, right? If you were winning games, if you're healthy, could you bring CJ off the bench? Could you start Trey instead? Probably not, even if you should. Well, now you have the opportunity to do that. Brandon Ingram's healthy. Can you bring him off the bench instead of starting him because you want to figure some future things out? The answer to that is absolutely yes. I don't think they'll do that, but they could. You normally wouldn't be able to do something like this, but you do have the opportunity now. So the rest of the regular season, for me, essentially becomes a really long training camp preseason for the 2025-2026 season. We don't know if they should or should not, maybe you do, build around Zion Williamson. We're going to for sure know at the end of this, assuming he stays healthy. As long as people stay healthy, please, we're going to know who should be a core part going forward. There's a lot at stake for DeJounte Murray in this, though I don't think they're going to look to trade him because you wouldn't get nearly the return of what you gave up. But is he a core part going forward? Was it a point guard that you needed? Was it something else? I think those are all things to really look at with this team going forward. So all of a sudden, the season, which like, yeah, whatever, don't need to watch. And look, I get it, becomes like, to me, must watch so that we know what the heck is going to happen going forward with this team. And that's a really important thing in my opinion, for them to figure out. We should get some answers now that people are coming back starting tonight with Jose Alvarado, and hopefully the Pelicans get their 6th win of the season. What would you even call this game? It's between two teams that have a combined total of 11 wins, which is just yikes. Wizards are 6-25. Pelicans are 5-29. Yikes is definitely the answer there. But I'm going to be there. I'm excited to be back after being away for a little bit. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope to see you in the Smoothie King Center. Use Game Time, by the way, to get tickets if you haven't already. And as always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. We'll be back with y'all on Monday, maybe an emergency show over the weekend if some news develops. This has been the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and I'll see y'all next time.